Ladies and gentlemen, K-Team here. Welcome to the daily update. Hope you guys had a good day trading today. Market is up about 0.7% on the S&P. I think the Nasdaq is similar. However, the Dow Jones Industrial Average and the financial sector did better today, about 1.5% on those. Small caps, the Russell 2000 lagged, finished the day with the 0.3%. Emerging market is up, I think about 1.7% today. So overall bullish day, but it was much more bright green throughout the day. We did see some shenanigan towards the last 2 hours here. So let's look at it here real quick. So it looks like we gapped up. So actually there's a little gap here. Okay, so that's why we found support there. I actually didn't, because I wasn't around this morning to look at the market, so I didn't realize we saw a gap here. So I'm gonna talk about that. So that's the first hour. We slightly gapped up and we saw a big thrust to the upside. Continue to march higher on the second hour, third hour, fourth hour. I've been tweeting out today about a couple tweets today talking about this gap that needs to be filled. It filled, we left about 30%, 40% or so left. We got a little bit of gap that remaining. Didn't completely fill that. That's a little bit, it should have filled all the way, but it's kind of like, it's such a little gap. So I don't know how much weight we're going to put onto it. I mean, it's the same thing here. You see how the bears brought it down, and that's where it found support, right? You see that low. I want to make sure we had that. Let me go to the cash market real quick. Okay, so yeah, there. So this is S&P 500 index, actual index, not the ETF. So we did see some fluctuation there. Because sometimes with the ETF, you got some weird wicks that sometimes it shows. And so anyway, so we kind of basically got this little down gap, little up gap, acting as resistance, acting as support here. So here is the good. The good is, here, let me actually move out a little bit so you can see my longer term moving up. There you go. So the good is we are faithfully cultivating higher highs in the short term of things. In the bigger scale, we still in that lower high vicinity. Just keep that in mind. That's the reason why I'm still gonna label this market neutral to bearish in the midterm. But let's talk about the short term. So the good is we got these higher highs, right? And what happened was the price actually managed to close above this pivot, 334.59. That's an important pivot because that was a prior resistance and price just managed to close slightly above it. So that's a slightly bullish going into tomorrow. And you see the moving average clusters here. You got the midterm moving average there. We got my short-term moving average there. So you kind of see that my midterm, my short-term hanging around in that vicinity. We pretty much have the moving averages cluster in that vicinity. We talked about how this is an important level on the last night's analysis, right? Make or break level. So it's a good thing that we did see price advancing today. Though we did see a pullback, it closed the day with positive, and that's a good sign. And that's the good, right? Not only that, this up gap still remains open. That's such a small gap though, but this gap, buyers definitely protected it yesterday. We talked about that, and we talked about how important that was. And when this gap was open, I talked about it on my Twitter and StockTwits account that this gap must be open if the buyers want to continue to pressure to the upside. And here's the bad though. Nothing ugly, just the bad. So I just showing you the good. Here's the bad. The bad is I actually was out after I tweeted out. I tweeted out earlier today that we saw a cross. We saw a little bit of whipsawing happening, right? And whipsawing happens kind of, it happens. especially with the oscillator, even with the price action. But with that whipsaw, we have what it looks like the bearish divergence there on the oscillator. So that's kind of bad. I'm not calling it ugly because the price managed to stay above that pivot, that support of 30.3459, and managed to stay above my midterm and short-term moving averages. And this little gap that opened this morning is still open. Not only that, we still got this gap still open from a couple days ago, that 330, 328, 331 gap. And the oscillator is in this higher low, higher high, uptrend trending fashion. So this could act as support. So given these facts, this bearish divergence is bad, but it's not ugly because it can get nullified. How do we get this nullified? If you're a buyer in this market, you don't want to see this thing coming down. You don't want this oscillator to find support somewhere here and then make a move to the upside. Didn't we see something like that similar in the past? Kind of remember analyzing that before. Let me see. Here. Okay, here. So I see it right here. This was back in what? This was back in July. It's a little bit different scenario in July. Obviously in July, after the 8% correction in June, we kind of based out for about a month or so, and then market decided to march higher again. It's a little bit different scenario, but we'll use it. So this was, you can see the bearish divergence, right? Lower high, and this was time where the price was price did higher high, all right? And you can see I drew this line right here, and it is no coincidence we found support there. You can see right here, here, here. So we saw bearish divergence. It initially came down, but it found support, came down, found support, came down, found support, continued high. And that's going all the way from what? When that bearish divergence occurred. This was back in July 7th. Market continued higher until July 21st, right? So that's about 13 calendar days. So I'm talking about 10 trading days. Market did see an uptrend here, right? So despite the fact that we did see a bearish divergence, we found support on that oscillator support. So going back to today, that's what bulls want to see, right? So you can see here, and good news is about that is that support is not too far. It's not way down here like this. It's actually much higher angle of the support, so it's not too far. That means just couple hours, potentially 2-3 hours tomorrow, we may see some downturn, we may hang around, we may move sideways, and what we want to see is this oscillator finding support right on that area and then get back up, right? So it will be important going into tomorrow how this price or how this oscillator is going to behave on that support. Obviously, I'll tweet things out tomorrow. You can follow me at 2K Kim, and I'll let you guys know and apprise you the behavior of this price action along with my oscillator here. Because if we can find support here, bulls can have that another leg higher to the upside. So to recap everything, the good is we have a higher highs, right? And we have the, we have that support holding, right? We have the gap also held, right? So you can see that wick came down, and we got also all these moving average, the price managed to close above it, right? And this gap still not totally filled, but buyers went up there and filled it, I don't know, about 50-60% there. The bad is we have the bearish divergence. But we got the rising uptrend support on the oscillator. It's actually worse if you just went straight up and then there's a bearish divergence. it actually didn't go straight up, it actually did this, right? And because of that, it kind of loses its potency on this bearish divergence, and because we had this uptrend support, and because we got these two gap area. So going into tomorrow, obviously bulls want to continue to defend this gap area. If there's some kind of shenanigan or gap down or some kind of sell-off tomorrow early in the couple hours, bulls have to make sure this gap does not get filled and find support here, right? Obviously bears want to come down and fill this gap and don't even let the bulls hang around above the pivotal level there, above the moving average, above the 33.4 support level. And again, that's where all that pressure has been coming from. All that buying pressure is that gap area. So bears want to fill that gap right away. So tomorrow we got 3 trading days left: Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So we're kind of starting to see more and more information as we, further into trading days here. And I think today's the end of September. So tomorrow we're gonna get into the first day of trading in October. And October, seasonality wise, can be tricky month, especially when you're dealing with the election. So it could either be really good or it could really be very lethargic. This market may not go anywhere just because people are kind of anxious about who's gonna win in the election. So it's a little bit tricky month, I think, we're going to face in October. So I'll come back for you guys tomorrow night. We'll go from there. Have a wonderful evening and good luck trading tomorrow.